welcome to a new episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo. So, today I have a special guest. She's a writer, director, and editor. So, please welcome Corinne.
Hi, pleased to meet you, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, to having you on the show. So, this film is an exciting one that we'll talk about today. So, we'll be discussing I'm Your Man. So, I'm Your Man is a 2021 German romance sci-fi comedy that's directed by Maria Schrader, who's known for doing projects such as Unorthodox and Love Life. The film stars Maren, Eggert, and Dan Stevens. So essentially with the plot, focuses on a scientist played by Maren Eggert. She accepts an offer to participate in an experiment in exchange for research funds for her studies. Essentially, she has to spend 3 weeks with a humanoid robot played by Dan Stevens that's created to make her happy. So the film was released in theaters on September 24th, which opened at number 26 with over 32,000. So films that beat this in the box office include Shang-Chi, Dear Evan Hansen, and Free Guy. It made over 509,000 worldwide during its theatrical release. In terms of reception, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 96% critic score. So here's what they have to say with the consensus. With a thought-provoking concept brought to humorous life by a pair of well-matched leads, I'm Your Man is an AI rom-com whose intelligence is anything but artificial. The audience, however, gave it 83%. And the film is available on demand, so check your local provider. So we could go into the first category, which is first discovery. So essentially how you first learned about the movie, your initial thoughts, and has it changed since then? So Corinne, do you want to start?
Yeah, of course. So basically, I heard a little bit about I'm Your Man. I heard about it because I think it went to TIFF. Is that right? I think
Yeah.
so.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think I saw it maybe on social media, but I didn't get the chance to watch it. And then you contacted me and you were like, hey, do you want to watch this movie? And I was like, fuck yeah. So that's about it. So my first thoughts on the movie, honestly, I thought that the concept was pretty cool. I like this idea of really challenging how we see romantic relationship and basically what makes a human human. So these are the concept that I always like in video games or in movies. So I was already kind of into it. So I was just wondering how they were gonna basically wrap it up at the end, because usually those kind of storylines are a little bit to wrap up, because as we know, it's kind of the general concept of being human. So how can you wrap up the entire concept of being human? That's just really hard to do. So yeah, I was just curious about that. But I'd say that my first, yeah, that were my first thoughts. Yeah.
So I'm pretty much right there with you because I first heard about this movie at TIFF because I saw it virtually last year during the festival. So I didn't see any trailers or promos or anything. Like I just went like with my instinct, like, oh, this will be a fun movie to check out because like it's like a romance movie but with a sci-fi twist to it. So I figured, oh, I might bring an interesting perspective on the rom-com genre. And then pretty much like after watching, like I really enjoyed the movie. It was essentially one of my favorite movies that came out last year. Well, even though like last year there wasn't much good movies that came out last year, but anyways, I still enjoyed the movie essentially. And yeah, like you said, like I enjoyed that it talks about like how to be human and all that sorts of stuff, but it doesn't really go like too deep like with a lot of sci-fi movies. So
Yeah.
I kind of like it's a light-hearted version, I guess, of that aspect of being human, while also trying to be like a quirky like romance at the same time as well.
Yeah, it was really interesting the way they brought sci-fi without making it too much. It was
Hmm.
really kind of realistic, and I really appreciate that. Agreed.
Absolutely. So we could segue into the highlights section. So essentially what we liked about the movie. So I guess yeah, we touched this up at the beginning. So I liked the mashup of the genres. I loved, yeah, with the romance and the comedy. and the sci-fi and some drama as well too. Because when I first saw the movie, like I wasn't sure what to expect with those mix of genres, but I liked how it was kind of like the unconventional rom-com. So like obviously like Alma and Tom don't end up being together for obvious reasons, which she does bring up when she breaks up with Tom because she says that it's not healthy to satisfy one person's needs on a constant basis, which contrasts with the other guy that she met, Dr. Stuber, who is happy like with his robot companion. So I thought
Yeah.
that aspect was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like that. And I feel, although I feel like the ending was kind of open there because since she goes back to that table where she used to be with like her first love, Thomas, and there she meet the robot, which is Tom, obviously, and they meet back there. And I feel like this open ending where she talks about her first love and she's like, I used to close my eyes waiting for him to kiss me. I was convinced he would kiss me. And then she closes her eyes and we see the generic. I have to say, even though it's not my favorite ending, I wished for more. I felt like it was kind of open on the idea that even though it was not logical, even though it was not what she wrote in her thesis, it was like a little bit like leaving it open that maybe she would still want to be with Tom. So that was really, I like the way they did the ending, even though I wished for something a bit more conclusive, less open. But still, it was pretty great, I would say, for that. I like how they didn't go too much into like being trying to give us a lesson. It was mostly just someone figuring it out as it go.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, because I had like mixed thoughts about the ending as well too. Like I kind of get what the director was trying to like achieve in making it being ambiguous, but at the same time, like I kind of wish like there was a more of a complete like ending.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I get what, they were trying to achieve, but at the same time it was kind of like frustrating as well. So,
But I feel like it's quite interesting when you go with
mm-hmm.
that kind of ending with
Yeah.
those kind of teams, because as I said earlier, it's kind of difficult to go with a definite answer in those cases. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense if we think about it with all those movies and video games and books that are on the same concept. It's usually like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in some way they gave a good a good ending nonetheless. But yeah, I was still disappointed a little bit when the generic sold out, but it was still
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I just have to say the actors, dang, Dan Stevens, Maren Eggert, they were freaking amazing. I can't stress this enough. They were great. It was really well done. The acting there was just on point.
Oh yeah, for sure. They definitely did like a good job because like I've seen like dance stuff and other stuff before. Like I haven't seen him in Downton Abbey, which I'm sure many people recognize him from. Because like for me though, like I find like it shows like a more romantic side to him. So again, like I haven't seen Downton Abbey. I'm sure he was like that on the show, but just for me, it was something different compared to stuff that I've seen him previously in. And I haven't seen Maren Eggert and stuff before, but I thought she did a good job of her performance.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I liked mostly, I'd say the first thing that struck to me in the acting was probably Dan Stevens just really acting like a robot in some way. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
I also like how the director really showed how his movements were robotic by showing like Dan Stevens moving quicker than Maren Eggert at some point. So that was
Mm-hmm.
a really interesting contrast that they did there to show us that the audience too, so that we could understand. It was really well done for that. I have to say also the cinematography was
Mm-hmm.
pretty great. I really loved how it was done. The music was quite okay too. I have to say it
Mm-hmm.
was not. It was good. It was generally good.
Yeah, because I also like the cinematography as well too, because I also kind of like the lighting because it kind of
Yeah.
had like a glossy or like romantic feel to it. Like for example, when Alma she's like alone in the cafe or with
Yeah.
any of the daytime sequences, I thought, yeah, that was quite cool to watch on screen.
Yeah. I also really liked how they brought out really statistics into it. You remember that scene where Tom just brings Alma to the bathroom and he's like, 93% of German women dreams of this. And she's like, yeah, guess which part I'm in? The 7%. Bye. It was amazing. That was pretty good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because that was one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Because it's funny that after when she rejects him, like he enjoys that romantic bubble bath like alone.
Yes, yes, self-care all the way.
Exactly, yeah.
That was pretty good. My first thought when I saw him in the bath was like, oh, he can go into water? Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, because it kind of brings up my next point. I like how with Tom, he's essentially like robot simp. So because pretty much with him, like he's trying at least way too hard to please Alma, like with all like the gestures, like with the bubble bath and like with the dance club, seen as examples. And it's funny though that when she is drunk at one point and she wants to sleep with him, but he refuses to sleep with her. He puts her to bed and saying like it's not the right time.
yeah.
But at then though, like when like towards the end she finds him, like he admits that he's been waiting for her for 3 days, which was
Yeah,
quite
that was
hilarious.
adorable.
Mhm.
I feel like it was really interesting also this kind of talk that they had because if you see, I don't remember the name of this other character that had a robot, the lawyer or something.
Yeah, it was
Um,
Dr. Stubert.
Dr. Stubert.
Hmm.
So basically, we see that in his case, his robot kind of stayed robotic, like a little bit.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Tom became more and more human because it was what Alma wished. She wished for someone human, and we could see that in the evolution of the character of Tom. As it goes, he becomes even more and more human, and that's why he was able to say no because he started to have his own desires. So
Hmm.
that was really, I felt like it was really well done. And in the end, it also showed. It was like she said, "I want to break up. I don't want to see you again. Go back to the factory." Where does he go? To the fucking tennis table somewhere in the middle of nowhere. That was, yeah. He has desire. He became human in some way, and I feel like that's also why Alma go and see him again at the end, and why it's so open. Because if it still goes like that, maybe she could change her mind. Maybe she would
Hmm.
see him really as human, and he could be human in some way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I have to say though, the humor in this movie, spot on.
Yes, yes.
Made me laugh. I have to say my favorite joke was probably when Alma goes sees her dad and she's
Mm.
like, "Are you smoking in stereo?" And I was like, this is pure comedy there with the two cigarettes, one in each hand, smoking in stereo. I want to use this so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, because I would also add I like the scene when Tom he pretends to have the robot voice when he talks to
yes.
Roger at the housewarming party.
Yeah. That was a scene that was like, oh, he's really just fucking with this guy. This is amazing.
Yeah, but probably also he wanted to get back at him because he was like messing with his hair and all that stuff, which
Yeah.
I'm sure he did not like, but
Yeah, and I feel like in some way it's also really interesting. There were a lot of tropes there about trauma and like what happened to Alma in her life for her to be so closed off to the idea of being intimate with Tom. So
mm-hmm.
basically her pregnancy that she lost obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
everything that was happening with her dad and all those kind of stuff. It was really interesting to see how life would just keep going
Yeah.
all through this
Mm-hmm.
kind of ordeal. So it was really interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. So, because I liked how, like, with Alma, like, she wasn't, like, the perfect protagonist, because usually, like, with the rom-com genre, like, you always have, like, the perfect, woman or man or so forth that will probably have, like, one or two flaws, but other
Yeah.
than that, like, she has, like, the perfect life and so forth. Because I like with Alma though, like she seems to live like a lonely life because she's busy with her job, taking care of her dad, pretty much no time to unwind. And when it comes to experiment, she pretty much doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So I loved, yeah, how like, yeah, she wasn't interested in the romantic gestures from Tom, at least at first. And yeah, like, and I liked how she was upset when another researcher like copied essentially like the same
Yeah.
subject she was studying, and we see here like a different side of her because she treats Tom like garbage.
Yeah, I feel like that scene was pretty powerful when they were on
Hmm.
the rooftop and Tom asked her, "Why are you so upset? It's going to be the same outcome. This is an important subject. Everyone's going to be aware of it. It's the same outcome." She was
Hmm.
like, "It's not the same outcome for me." And he was like, "Oh, it's egoistic. I can't say that word. It's selfish tears
Hmm.
that you have there."
Hmm.
And it was just so spot on. I was like, you just called her out.
Yeah.
Dang. I mean, I would have the same reaction. I'm sorry, but I agree. We need to do more for humanity. But if at least I
Hmm.
can get something out of it, I will be quite happy.
Yeah. Like it sucks, yeah, that like someone else essentially did the same thing but at the same time. She could have either find like a different either alternative to the subject
Exactly.
or just find something else completely.
Exactly. And I mean, when you see that, maybe you can compare your research to what they did and see what are the differences there and
Mm-hmm.
work on that. So, I mean, it's okay because she just got the news. So she was not going to think logically in that moment. It was really emotional. She just lost, not really, but she just spent the past 3 years working on something like that. And now she felt like everything was falling apart. So I totally get that she was having an emotional response at that moment. And it's totally fine. It's human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point. It's human. That was really
Yeah.
beautifully done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they definitely did a good job with that aspect of the film.
Yeah.
And I also liked, I would say the therapy scene with the employee. Yeah, that character is credited as employee. Essentially, like the employee admits that Alma like treats Tom like a machine, which she pretty much does throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And it was funny that like Alma like she discovers that the employee is a robot.
Yeah, that was spot on. I didn't see it coming and then I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On top of that, it was not out of nowhere. There was some foreshadowing that we could have seen over the movie before, and then yeah, she was a robot. We just didn't see it. That was pretty good.
Mm-hmm, for sure, yeah. And I also liked too the scene when Alma she plays with the holograms at the dance club show because it shows that she's like letting loose, trying to have fun, like until she hits Tom in the back and
Yeah, I feel like it goes with what the employee was saying during the first scene. She was like, "Oh, we're gonna redo this because the first meeting is important." And then when she meets Tom again, it goes well and she smiles. So that
mm-hmm,
was, I feel like it showed exactly what the employee was saying that the first time it didn't go well, so we'll redo it basically. And it went
mm-hmm.
well. I have to say, it went well. They were cute.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I would also like say that it seemed like with the effects like they were more like practical because like for example like with Ex Machina because like we clearly see like the robots like with the mechanic arms and that sort of stuff while like here like Tom is completely human. So I
Yeah.
thought that was an interesting choice. Like I wonder if it was either budget concerns or if that was what they intentionally wanted from the get-go.
Yeah, that would be a good question to have. I don't know if we could find that online or, but I honestly, if we just go with my interpretation, I think it was a directing choice. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was just interesting to show how even though he looks human and acts mostly like a human, Alma
Mm-hmm.
is just really set on this idea that he's not human and she's not going to treat him like one. So it just shows how much human nature can be conflicted and how much we
Mm-hmm.
can be closed off to the others just on a small little thing. It's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And like I also like to like with the film's commentary on the modern dating and technology, because I loved, yeah, there was a moment where there was like a montage like of people like falling down, which was quite like sad but was like hilarious. This was like after like the cafe
Yeah,
scene with Tom. Yeah.
I remember that. It was like I felt so called out because I used to watch those videos. I had a phase of like 2 months where I was just watching that all the freaking time. Fail Army, that
Mm-hmm.
was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they did it, it was like the music was kind of sad and it
Yeah.
was like in slow motion. So it was not funny anymore. It was funny when it was fast with like a carnival kind of music and everything. But when you take all that off, it's not funny.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because, like, I feel like for me, like, if I was, like, younger, like, in my, like, teens or 20s, I'd probably,
Yeah,
like, find it hilarious. But for me, as I get older, like, it's quite sad to watch because those stuff are easily preventable. But,
exactly. I feel like it was a good way to show how much editing is important, how
mm-hmm.
much every single choice that you make when you're editing a movie makes sense in the end.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have that vision in mind. And I feel like in that moment, they were showing us, the audience, what Tom was seeing watching those videos.
Mm-hmm.
It was, yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. And like with like the modern dating, like it's kind of like nice to see that like when you meet someone, like clearly like there's more to the person than what we see like from like a visual standpoint. Because I'm sure like when Alma met Tom, like she had, like her judgments and all that stuff. But then as she got to know him, like, you seem like a good guy, even though he's a robot, but
Well, in the first scene when she first meets him, we can see that she asks him weird questions. So she's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, she's asking about equation and like statistics and stuff like that, and he just answers right on top of the hat. So that was it just showed how much she was already looking at the robot instead of the person in front of her.
Yes.
And as it goes, she starts to ask question more, a bit more human again,
Mm-hmm.
more logical, less logical, in fact. But it was just interesting to see the evolution of both characters because we could see Tom evolving, but also Alma. She just took a step back and
Mm-hmm.
tried to understand. She
Yeah.
really tried. We're gonna give her that.
Yeah, true. And a last point that I'll add, like, the scene, like, when Tom reorganizes Alma's things, like, I just wondered, though, like, was that, like, sped up? Like, where, let's say, they filmed them separate, like, doing that stuff, like, very fast? Or is it something that the actor did really fast? Because I'm just, like, curious if it was one or the other.
Yeah, I wonder because I feel like at that speed it could be both, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
both could be possible. But either way, it worked pretty well on screen, and I'm really glad they did it because it really showed its robotic nature in some way. That
Yeah,
was interesting.
for sure, yeah. Because even also too, like with this scene, like when he's going to bed, like it looks like he's curving
Yeah,
backwards. Because I just want to like, did he had to do so many takes with that? Because I just imagine though, it will be very like
the
hurting.
backache.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, dang. Yeah. I saw that scene and I was like, oh God, is it an horror movie or is it a rom-com? What's going on?
yeah,
Those scene in horror movies where they just backwards with like the eyes and stuff. I was like,
yeah.
no, I don't want to see that, please. I'm here for the rom-com, please.
Yeah. But hey, it shows that he's flexible, so.
Absolutely flexible actor, of course.
hmm
But
So,
yeah.
so that's pretty much what I had for the highlight scene. If there's anything else you want to add that we didn't cover.
I'd say we covered it all. I'd say in general it was just a good, well done movie about human nature. It was well done there. I love the report at the end too that she did. So just in
Mm-hmm.
general, a good movie there.
Mm-hmm, for sure, yeah. So we could segue into the lowlights section. So for me, I didn't really had too much to add with this section, but I would say though, like with the sex scene with Elma and Tom was quite hilarious because I get like the director didn't want to make it to be too like sexual, but it was kind of like weird though, like when there was laying side to side, like I just wonder, were they using their fingers towards each other? Like,
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure. This is 100% my interpretation, but I feel like it was only Tom fingering Alma.
mm-hmm,
And I feel like it showed again how much Alma was looking at him as a robot. I feel that could be an interpretation there, but I'm not sure. I felt like that sex scene was kind of awkward. I was watching it with my BF and I looked at him and I was like,
mm-hmm.
that's not how we look when we do it. Please tell me it's not how we look. It was quite awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was taken aback.
Yeah, because I would understand that the director maybe wanted to make that scene to be more like sensual. Because if, let's say, if they did like a full-on sex scene, like I guess it would be kind of like awkward because it's a human having sex with a robot. But
I feel like it was a directing choice mostly made
mm-hmm.
because the director didn't want to go too much into the biology of robots, which
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the point of the movie, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like that scene was a little bit awkward, but
Yeah.
it was okay. But I feel like I had the same question as you. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
in this position, what are they doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Like physically, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
And I would say too, like when Tom saves Steffi, if that's her name, from fainting, it was at the housewarming party. How was she able to recover so fast? Because like after when like he saves her, she's all like standing up, being okay, like in the next shot. I
Yeah,
thought that
that
was.
was one of my questions too. I feel like since right after we learned that Steffi is pregnant, I thought maybe that's related. So it could be
Hmm.
just, I don't know. I've never been pregnant. I don't know pregnant women. I have no
Yeah,
idea what's going on there.
me
But
neither. Yeah.
maybe it's something related to that. So I was like, maybe. But at the same time, it was kind of weird to see that after that, the party just went on.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if the host would just faint, usually I think people would just leave,
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
leave some space, get some rest. Please get well soon. We don't know you're pregnant, but get well soon, please.
Mm-hmm.
It's just common sense. So I was a little bit taken aback by that too, honestly.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And a last point for me is that I felt like with the pacing in like the later half of the film for me got a bit too slow. Like I don't know if it's because with the different change in the tone, but I just felt like it was a bit slow for me.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I had the same note there. I felt like the
Mm-hmm.
pacing, there was something that was not 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like some scene, like I'd say I agree with you. It's like the first half was a good pacing, it was going well, and then the second
Mm-hmm.
half got some scenes were going really quick, and then some were going way too slow, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just a bit confusing there. I don't know how to pinpoint, but I would say, when Alma is going to that table in the middle of nowhere. So
Mm-hmm.
there are those long scenes where she's trying to get there, and I just felt like, okay, where is she going? Get to the point. Stop running around the bushes. Just tell me what she's doing. And
Mm-hmm.
then a little bit the same thing when she was with Tom and they were just going to run in a field. I was like, why are you running in the field? Okay. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's romantic. Okay, it was a bit long there. But I feel at the same time it's like a little low, a little low light. It
Yeah.
wasn't so bad, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was not 100% on the pacing. I agree with you. There was
Mm-hmm.
something a little odd there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So is there any aspects of the film that you didn't like?
Well, as I just said, there was a pacing, just like you
Yeah.
mentioned. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would say mostly the ending, because I'm the kind of person who really love, in the rom com, usually we have the happy ever after phase where we just see
Mm-hmm.
that the two characters are doing well and they're happy and
Mm-hmm.
everything's fine. In this movie, I mean, with the concept, that's not something that I should have expected, but I
Mm-hmm.
kind of expected it anyway.
Yeah.
I wanted a happy ever after, or at least just see that Alma and Tom are still good friends, and he's not like, just erased from existence. That was my main complaint. Is he erased?
Yeah.
Or is he
Yeah.
okay? Is he alive? What's going on with Tom? Please don't
Yeah.
send him back to the factory. Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like we missed a little bit of that last part there for the rom-com. I felt left on my hunger, if we say it in
Hmm.
English. I'm not sure if that's an expression there.
Yeah, because I find for me, like, it depends, like, on the film, right, in terms of the ending. Because, like, with La La Land, for example,
Yeah.
that, I would say, has an unconventional ending, like, for a rom-com, because essentially, like, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, they don't end up together.
Yeah.
So, which is what I liked about the movie. So, I don't know, maybe, like, here, they could have shown more, like, of a resolution of, like, what happens next with the characters if they didn't want to have them like ending up together, but
Yeah. I felt like it would have been interesting just to see what direction they were taking now. Because I
mm-hmm,
felt also with the report that Alma was giving, it's like she's giving a report, but what end up with those robots? Are they going to be erased? Or it's mainly my main concern. I'm just like, Tom, please don't die. Well, you can't die,
mm-hmm.
but don't be erased. That was my main point. I don't care if they don't end up together. Just tell me he's not dead.
Yeah, and like also too, like, does she get her funding at the end? Because the
Yes.
purpose of her being the experiment was to get the funding for her research, but
But her research just went downhill when the other research paper went out. So it just,
true.
yeah. So I'd say we just missed the bit where we know that the characters are going to be okay. Right now, we
Mm-hmm.
just left in the fog and we don't really know what's going on for them. And that's the main point for me. I feel like I just want to know that Alma is going to go away, Tom is going to go his way. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna flee the company. He's just gonna run away. I don't know. I just want to know what he's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered too, though, like, is the company, are they gonna like try to find Tom? Because I imagine, like, after a certain point, like, they're gonna be concerned that one of their products is missing.
Exactly. I mean, she was having Tom for 3 weeks. So after the span of 3 weeks, they should take it back at least because you know that character we said, oh, I'm already talking to try to get her to stay with me. So he was
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the robot to stay with him. So we know they were supposed to send them back at the end of the trial. So
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen there? Is Tom going to be a runaway robot with like missing posters everywhere, but not missing posters because he's not alive? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, have you seen my iPod? Have you seen my robot? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just really curious about that
Yeah.
part.
Maybe he'll go into art because that's something that he's interested in. Because if you remember, he was fascinated by her friend's painting, like in her apartment, and he was also fascinated too, like with all the artifacts, like at the museum. So,
I mean,
may-
like when you're a robot, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can learn about the
exactly.
subject in 10 seconds. So I feel like it would be really interesting to just see that in society, but at the same time, it's quite scary. And I feel like it's the fear that won over Alma there at the end with that report too, because she's like, if we allow that, we're gonna lose that ability
Hmm.
to have human contact that is just regular, not made for us. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I just wonder. I really wonder. I wonder a lot of things with this ending, and that
Yeah.
is my main low light. Just the
Hmm.
ending, man. I wanted
Yeah.
more.
For sure, yeah. So I'll could segue into the trivia section. So essentially, any fun facts about the film. So I couldn't really find that much like out there, but from what I could find, here's what I could say. So the film premiered at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2021, where Maren Eggert won the Silver Berlin Bear Award, which is
Ooh.
nice. Yeah. And this film was a Germany selection for the international film category for the Oscars back in 2022. It made the shortlist but was not nominated.
Hmm. Well, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, but I guess like at the end I wasn't too surprised because I would say for the Oscars, they tend to lean more towards like the dramas than with comedies, but
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, it's the Oscars. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And this movie like was huge in Germany because apparently it won 4 German film awards, including Outstanding Feature Film.
Dang, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So, and with Dan Stevens, so apparently he's fluent in German.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't even know. What is his nationality?
'Cause he's British.
He's British. Oh,
Yeah.
that's really good then. That's really
Mm-hmm.
good.
Because like apparently this is his second German movie after Hild or Hildy, which came out in 2009, and he's the only English actor in this movie.
I feel like it's so interesting when we have actors who work in their second or third or whatever number language. It's just
Mm-hmm.
really interesting to see that and how much they can just, you know, acting is not a language thing. It's something that you inherently have once you learn it. So you just have to understand the language and then you can do it in whatever language you want. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
really interesting to see that. I feel like it just showed how much this actor can be polyvalent. it's
Yes.
it's really interesting there.
Mm-hmm, for sure, because usually, like in stuff like this, like they'll usually like dub like their voice like in post. But yeah, I was just happy to see that he, is able to speak a lot of languages.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And the last fun fact is that alma means soul in Spanish and Portuguese, which possibly alludes to the one thing that Alma has that Tom does not have.
Okay, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I like that.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, yeah, that's yeah, interesting for sure. And then so lastly, like I usually ask this question. Should this movie be rediscovered? So, Corinne, do you
Hmm.
recommend this movie to the people?
I will say I will. I will. I will not spoil to people, but I will watch them as they come to the ending and be like, ha ha ha. Feel my pain. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was pretty good. I would absolutely recommend it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I'm on the same boat too. Like I would recommend this movie because it's like the unconventional rom-com. Like it doesn't follow the beats in the traditional rom-com.
Yeah,
The performances, like from the cast, like especially of Dan Stevens, is fantastic. Loved, yeah, the cinematography, like it has a romantic and a poetic feel to it, and loved that how it explores themes of modern dating, technology, and being human.
absolutely. It was a good movie for that. Agreed.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So that pretty much wraps up this episode of the podcast. So, do you have any plugins, Corinne? Any?
I'm gonna say you can. I don't have any project coming up right now. I'm still working on a few projects, but I don't know if they will end up happening. You know me. But you can absolutely follow me on Instagram. So it would be at CocoVio13. So you can see if I do something at that point. I don't even know myself.
Yeah, so you could follow myself on Twitter and Instagram at Nomfanelo. You could follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RD Movies Pod, and you can use the hashtag RD Movies Pod. You could answer the featured question on Spotify. You could like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. And you could submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com. Or you could also leave a short voice message on anchor.fm/rdmoviespod. So I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. So do you have any final notes you want to share, Corinne?
Well, thank you and keep watching. Keep listening. Whatever. Anyway, wonderful.
All right, so you guys take care and until next time.